Here we are, Ben. This is the most relaxing episode we have ever had on this podcast. Why is that, you ask? Well, I have a great reason. Phillies lost 10-0 last night, and I do not care. I don't care at all. That's actually not true, but
I do
we'll
care.
get to that later in the podcast. Agreed. I do care. But we'll get to that later in the podcast because I have some major concerns.
Yes.
After last night's loss. One, I don't care how late of a night it was. You need to get a few hits. Number two, there we go. Sir Anthony Dominguez is not good right now, and so they need to change. Number three, Connor Brogdon is not a big leaguer. And number four, Ranger Suarez, the command was concerning.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think they were all hungover.
I do too.
It was the hangover game.
It was.
You know, they must have some hits in the last inning. I'm going to be honest with you. Didn't even watch the game last night.
Really? Yes, you did. You were tweeting.
I tweeted like the first two innings, and I turned the game off, and then I went played some video games, and I came up in the ninth inning, and they started hitting, and then they lost, and then I went to bed.
Exciting. No, I suffered through all my innings.
Nice.
All 9.
All right, so today we have a very special guest joining us. As this is the postseason preview / regular season recap episode. We did it, everybody. Everyone snap. Today we are joined by
a very special guest.
What's his credential? Hold on. 1 second. Hold on. Inside the Phillies of Fan Nation.
Sports Illustrated.
Which is of Sports Illustrated. So we're going to call
I think we should restart the intro.
Are we starting the intro?
Yeah, we are. We're starting the intro.
Yeah, that was all over the place. All right.
It was all over the place.
Restarting in 3.
And there's an awkward pause, so I had to go do something on my laptop. All right, here we go.
3, 2.
Here we are, Ben. This is the exciting, but least nerve-wracking, but most relaxing. Yeah, I might have caught you up there. Episode of Bell Ringers Podcast.
Woo!
Today, Ben and I will be joined by a special guest to discuss the end of the regular season for the Phillies, and we will take a quick glimpse into what is to come in St. Louis. We found out last night with a Padres win, and a Phillies loss, that we will meet San Diego. Oh my goodness, I'm on the wreck right now. St. Louis. We're meeting St. Louis.
Woo!
Here we go.
Let's go.
Redbirds. We're meeting Redbirds in the Lou, everybody. The birds in the back. All right.
So today we are joined by my friend, Alex, not Colin's friend, from the Phillies department of the Sports Illustrated Fan Nation, Alex Carr. We are joined by him today to discuss the end of the regular season and the beginning of the postseason. Yeah, very exciting. So let's start that. Let's go.
All right. So Alex, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. So can you a few seconds to give us a little bit of your background, what you're doing right now, what you're working on?
Sure. So I am Alex Carr. I am a writer for Sports Illustrated and Fan Nations inside the Phillies. I also just am very online. Well, not as online as I think some people assume, but I'm online enough. And I love doing what I do. I love, covering and watching the Phillies, and I'm very glad to be here.
It's fun. Thanks again for coming on. So before we get into the 6 questions that we have for you, just give me your general Phillies thoughts right now, like direction you think they're trending in, your reflection on the season, just anything very general.
Sure. I think they did about as well as I expected them to. I expected around 90 wins. I didn't think it would be as painstaking as it was, but I expected around 90 wins in a wild card spot. And, that's where they ended up. Thank goodness. Really, really happy with the way the rotation panned out. Really, really happy with the way the bullpen kind of surprised a lot of people, and I think it's the lineup that was probably the most disappointing of the three aspects. I mean, even the defense wasn't that bad. So it's been a long year. Felt like it went by in a breeze though.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just very very excited to see how they play in the postseason. Obviously something we haven't been privy to in over a decade. So I'm looking forward to it.
Neither me or Colin have ever seen.
Wait, you're lying.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, we were.
Wait, that would make sense. 11 years. You guys are.
I was
14.
Yeah,
oh my.
I'm
goodness.
15. He's 14. So I was 4.
I'll be 15 in less than a week. So
you're still 14. It's okay. It's okay.
Wow.
Well, I know you
want
to be 15.
I'm excited for you guys to get to witness it. It really is. I mean, even when you talk about you guys were too young, I was only 13 last time they made the postseason, and even then, I really wasn't. I was only like 7 years into being a Phillies fan, so I really wasn't, because I grew up in the UK, so I really wasn't. I still wasn't that huge of a fan at that point. So I'm excited. This is going to be my first time like really digging in and having stakes here. So I'm pumped up.
Well, hopefully it lasts longer
Alex,
than I think.
You, if you were kind enough, should send some notes to our school to get us out of school an hour-ish early, because I think we really appreciate that. Because
I mean,
the first game is at 2:07. Yeah.
Oh my god! If I had that power, I would. But I don't think they'll accept a note from me.
My last class ends at 2:15, and our teacher usually ends 10 minutes early, so I'll be all right.
Hey,
I think I'll be all right too. We're 2:25.
Find a way to stream it on your phone. You'll be all right.
Oh yeah, I got that.
And you guys go to school in the Philly area, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they should let you out. They should let you out. That I wouldn't
agree.
worry about it.
My last class assistant, he's a huge Philly sports fan, so he better understand.
Wear some Phillies gear on Friday.
They'll let
you go. They'll let you go.
I will. Yeah.
They'll let you go. Or at least they should, if they have any soul.
All right, so I was telling Alex and Ben before we got on here that I had a funny story from this morning. And this is like, so Alex is not going to be happy about this. I am a Cardinals fan, which I'm sure, I see that face.
Can we correct that to part-time Cardinals fan?
All right, part-time is fine. My family is Cardinals fans. I'm a Phillies fan just because honestly, the only reason I'm a Phillies fan is because that was the baseball that was on TV when I was like 7 years old.
Sure.
That's really the only reason I'm a Phillies fan. But a lot of the family on my mom's side, they're Cardinals fans. So this morning, I was at the gym. The gym is like right by my house. I go there, do a workout every other day. And I was wearing this hat. This is my Cardinals hat. Now, this guy comes over to me. I've never met him before in my life. Yeah, I knew it was a mistake, but I was in a rush this morning. I had to come back. I had to make this agenda and get ready for the podcast and, the article I have to write tonight and this Phillies game. So I wanted to get out there early, get it finished. So I threw on the first hat that I saw. So this guy comes up to me. He goes, "I'll put $5 in the series." So I didn't even say a word first. I just looked at him. I smiled, and I looked down. And I showed him my pants. I was wearing Phillies pants at the same time. So
wow.
So then he just looks at me and he's like confused why I'm not talking. So I go like this, and I look at him and he just starts laughing. He's like, "Oh shoot!" He just starts dying. It was awesome. And then he's like, "That's a pretty good deal for you." And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." I'm like, "I've pretty much got a guarantee that one of my two teams will be in the division series." So then my dad comes over and we're talking, and then he's like, "Do you know what time the game's going to be?" And I'm like, "No, they said it's going to be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or 7 o'clock for the Friday game. Haven't announced it yet though." And he goes, "Oh, I hope it's the late game so I can watch it. And I'm not at work." I'm like, "Me too." I'm like, "But I think the Mets are going to get the 8 o'clock game." Or I'm sorry, 8 o'clock is what I meant, because they're the big market. Ben was saying this yesterday. They're going to get the 8 o'clock game. And he goes, "Yeah, I know, I did." And then he goes, "Oh, F the Mets, F the Mets." So that was my Phillies fan to Phillies fan. I guess we call that conversation this morning that probably didn't go as you think it would until I had to show him my pants.
Yeah, you have to
super
pull
strange.
out your ID.
Exactly.
Show them you have Phillies claim.
So the new whenever, at least for this weekend, if you ever leave the house, check what hat you're wearing, because
I will.
even
tough
like if I
swimmer.
didn't know you, I would I'd say something.
I'm in a more
Oh, yeah.
dangerous position than you two. I live in the New York area, so if I
Mm,
wear a Phillies hat outside, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
that's true. And you're a full-time Phillies fan.
Yeah,
You are
well,
that's your one team right there, right? Is that the
oh
one team?
no. I grew up a Mariners fan. And
Wow.
then I kind of transitioned to the Phillies because I kind of the same deal as you. They were the closest team to where I lived as a kid. And it was either I lived in central New Jersey, so I was equidistant from New York or Philadelphia. So I had to pick one or the other, and who wants to be a New York sports fan? So I chose
Really?
Philadelphia, and
That's a great choice.
and I never looked back. But I grew up a Mariners fan because I got to when I moved here from overseas. I kind of got to pick whatever team I wanted to. I wasn't beholden to any team. So I picked the Mariners because I loved Ken Griffey Jr. And yeah, from then on, I was really big Mariners fan. But now I've kind of fallen into obviously writing about the Phillies, and that's been a blessing. I love doing it. So
That's awesome.
Yeah,
yeah.
All right, so
I don't have a second team. I hate everything else except the Phillies.
all we know. All right, so you have a few questions for you. These are a little bit more specific, I think. So I'll hit you with the first one now. So come Friday, what roles do you want to see each Phillies reliever in? We've seen some Seranthony Dominguez struggles over the past, really since he's come off the injured list. David Robertson's walk rate right now is through the roof. And then you've got Zach Eflin, who's kind of come out of nowhere and has been, probably their second most dominant reliever since his return.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very precarious position that they're in, right? Because you had depended on Seranthony Dominguez and in the second half, David Robertson a little bit more than most other guys, and they've really started to show some wear and tear. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Seranthony Dominguez, 3 years prior to this, was not touching a mound and hadn't for over 1,000 days. So it was pretty difficult for him to make this comeback. And obviously, after a full season's worth of work, he's starting to show some chinks in the armor, right? So it's unfortunate that this had to happen now, but at the same time, you just have to be thankful that he's healthy and that they're going to have him, for years to come. So that's unfortunate. I'd probably expect to see Seranthony in more of a middle relief role. If he's coming in a 1-run game in the ninth, it's probably not the ideal scenario. And the same can be said about David Robertson. I mean, remember again, David Robertson dealt with a litany of injuries prior to, joining back with the Rays last year after, was it last year? Yeah, last year after he played for Team USA. And then, this year, obviously full season with the Cubs, but he really is starting to show that, that lack of durability. I mean, it started happening. I guess it was in that series. What series was that? I can't remember. Was it the San Francisco series? I really can't remember. It was the San Francisco series. His cutter lost some velocity, and he was really, he was showing that kind of wear and tear, like I said. So again, I'd expect him to be in more of a middle relief, maybe a leverage, situation. Same with Seranthony. As for the back end, I would primarily expect Jose Alvarado to be the guy that closes games for the Phillies in the playoffs. I think that's a no-brainer. If not closing games, he's going to be in the Seranthony Dominguez fireman role, right, where he gets the top 3 hitters in the lineup,
right,
and then they pass it off to. Then I would say Zach Eflin for the close.
I agree with that.
But we would have to see. I think it's going to be a lot of situational stuff. A lot of situational matchups, a lot of situational thinking. I think if you obviously have, a slew of left-handers coming up, if they have Brad Hand available, they'll probably give that to Brad Hand. Maybe they'll give it to Alvarado, depending on the leverage of the scenario. I think it's going to be a lot of matchup base, switch-ins, and I think it's going to be a lot of, depending on what kind of lead or deficit they are facing. I think they're definitely going to be. Very dependent on the paperwork there, but we'll see.
I think so. The way I see that is David Robertson has really just, I think you said the San Francisco series, he hasn't looked the same that he did earlier in the season when we saw him. I mean, we saw him in Chicago when the Cubs were in Philadelphia. he was great. I think he closed out 2 of the 3 games there. Now he just seems shaky in general. I look at Seranthony Dominguez. I think that's a slightly different story. Dominguez, I think, looks really sharp when he comes out of the pen for the first 1 to 2, sometimes 3 hitters. But it seems like once that one guy gets on base or he loses his command for a few pitches,
He's done.
things kind of just go down the drain. Yeah, like last night, I thought he was great for the first 2 hitters.
Sure.
Because I believe he got the first out and then he walked one, but he threw some really well-located fastballs on the corner. He elevated. I think he hit 98 or 99 with one of his elevated fastballs. It was up and in, right on the corner for a strike. The Astros hitters were behind him. They were behind a lot. He was visible. So I actually would not be opposed to seeing Seranthony Dominguez in a role where maybe he comes on with 2 outs in the 7th inning and there's runners on base, and you just ask him to give me a pitch to 3 hitters minimum here. Get me the 1 out, and if you get me the 1 out, you're done. Face one batter. Because I believe the rule is that he doesn't have to finishes the inning. Does he have to go back out for the next inning for 2 batters?
Just have to finish the inning. Yep.
Yes.
Right.
So
I wouldn't be opposed to a role like that for Seranthony Dominguez.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I think following up a starter, and let's say Aaron Nola goes 6 1/3, right? And he leaves a man on base. I think that's a perfect scenario for Seranthony, especially given he's got that weaponized sinker that induces a lot of ground ball contact. And I think what you're mentioning, Colin, is that you're looking at a guy that, the first few hitters he's going to be sharp, but then because of the wear and tear that he's experienced through the season, he really dullens very quickly, and it's mostly command based, right? That's what we've noticed is he's allowing a few more free passes than he had earlier in the season. Again, that's a sign of a player who is kind of getting taxed in the arm a little bit, and that's okay. There shouldn't be any long-term health implications of it. It just means that they have to work with what they have, and currently what they have is a guy that hasn't pitched in 3 years really, that has taken on a huge role and a lot of leverage in a year where they really needed him to, and now he's kind of showing the aftershocks of that. But yeah, I think that's a perfect role for him, especially like I mentioned, a middle relief kind of maybe a fireman role, following up the starter.
Yeah, and now we're going to, this is his first off season where he's coming off a healthy season and he's going into what should be a healthy season, and I'd expect that he'd build up a little bit more stamina going into 2023, and hopefully this is a one-time thing, and I really do think it will be, because like even the velocity dip that we saw last night, it really wasn't that substantial. I mean, it was 2 miles per hour. I noticed towards the end of his outing, it came down a little bit, and really 2 miles per hour when you're going out there throwing 98 to 96, it's not really that huge of a difference, I don't think. Obviously, when you look at it from a metric standpoint, it is, because that's what you base velocity off of. But I do think that Seranthony Dominguez will be fine in the long run. But I agree. I think his role should come somewhere in the middle, 6th, 7th inning in this playoff, just because of that wear and tear in his arm.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Next question. All right, here we go. Big time. Going back to school, A's to F. How would you grade the job Rob Thompson has done since June 1st, and why?
I mean, I don't think you can give him anything other than an A. If not higher. You simply can't. There's no. I mean, look what happened to the Angels, right? Angels were one of the best teams in baseball. They started slipping. They fired their manager. What happened? They got worse. I mean, that's just how it works. Typically, these mid-season managerial shifts, they don't work. That being said, this kind of managerial shift was not your typical one. Joe Girardi was hurting the team, very much so. And, I had been saying that for his entire tenure, practically. And it was very obvious. I mean, it was obvious in the bullpen management. It was obvious in the, trotting the same guys out in the same roles every single day. Just, it wasn't happening. It was not happening. And he was, even more importantly, ignoring his young talent, which Rob Thompson turned to embrace. And look where it got them. It got them a playoff spot. And the Phillies were staring down another year of mediocrity prior to that. They were 21 and 29 when Rob Thompson took over. And now look at him. So I really don't think you can grade it any other way than an A. Have I disagreed with some of his decisions? Sure. Of course I have. Everybody disagrees with a manager's decisions time and time again. But what I love about Rob Thompson is that he seems to understand how to jive with this Phillies clubhouse. And a lot of what this Phillies clubhouse has become is young guy controlled, right? And what you really want to see, what you really love to see, is the relationship that he has with Kyle Schwarber, who is the leader of the clubhouse, right? You love to see that kind of relationship, because when they are vibing, when the manager and the leader of the clubhouse are working together and really coalescing, that's when you find peak, clubhouse satisfaction. And all you want from a manager these days, because of how metric-based the role is at this point, or how metric-based it should be, all you really want is a guy that's going to have control over the clubhouse. And Rob Thompson has that in spades. So I give him an A, if not an A+.
I would also give him an A for really those same reasons. How quick do they hire him this offseason?
I don't know. I think that they are going to wait until they see how the managerial pool fleshes out. Look, Don Mattingly is going to be on the market. So is Craig Counsell, probably, I would think. I don't know why I said that, because I don't have any kind of inside source on that. He hasn't been fired yet, but I mean, the Brewers missed the playoffs. It certainly feels like his time might be coming to an end.
Sports Illustrated sources?
No, not even close. I don't even want to put that out there. I have no basis for that, other than, the Brewers obviously just had a really disappointing season. And, I think you can blame it more on their front office than you can their manager, but I really like Craig Counsell. If he became available, I mean, that'd be pretty sweet. But that being said, I don't think the managerial market is going to be very deep this year. And I think you'll probably see them rehire Rob Thompson. I don't know when, but I think it's probably going to happen.
To go back to what you said about how Rob Thompson made some decisions that we don't agree with. I can't speak for you, Alex, or Ben, but from my standpoint, I say that there's a good chunk of those decisions that I disagreed with, where it ended up working out. So really, situations is, a lot of times the decision that he may or may not make might come off as, that's the wrong decision at the time. But I think he's made a lot of moves that, he gave his reason in his post-game interview, and, it made sense outside of, you might say, oh, this guy gets this inning, this guy gets that inning. So why wasn't the guy that's supposed to get that inning? But I think he's done a great job in his role this year, especially coming in mid-season. And I do think some people overlook, he woke up one day as the bench coach, and he played a game that night as the manager, and he was the manager for the next 90 some games. Is that 90, 100, low hundreds? I mean, that's hard to do.
Yeah, I think
that gets overlooked.
Probably 120.
Yeah. I said this in the podcast we recorded yesterday. All the dude cares about is winning, and that's the manager you need. You remember when they interviewed him in the clubhouse after he got right before he got absolutely doused with champagne. The last thing he said was 13 more wins after Wednesday and we're world champions. And that's all he cared about. And coming from him, who was a bench coach and now a manager, is really good. I don't know another word to say, for lack of better term word. Good.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. And I think that, especially when a lot of my gripes with Rob Thompson have been more defensive switches. I think Nick Castellanos should be out of the game after he takes his fourth at bat. He should not be playing right field, especially in the late innings. But that's again, these are small gripes. I remember there was a game where Matt Vierling was in center, where it probably should have been Brandon Marsh. And Matt Vierling ended up missing a routine play, and Brandon Marsh has done his fair share of that too. So that's not necessarily in Thompson's control, but just a few things here or there. But I do not blatantly disagree with a lot of Thompson's moves as I did with Joe Girardi. I mean, there were some moves with Joe Girardi where they were just mind-boggling. And so, I have to say, I am far more comfortable with a guy that is going to have a better relationship with the players, a better relationship in the clubhouse, than I am with a guy who is I don't know, who has a track record. What else can you say about Joe Girardi? Carries a binder.
Yeah, I didn't love his
Really-
I didn't love his demeanor.
No.
I thought that he was very nonchalant during his whenever he spoke to the media or the public. He didn't seem like he cared. It seemed like he was there to be a major league manager, not to win a championship, and I didn't really appreciate that. Yeah, and
understandable.
I'm not saying that he's a bad manager. I don't think that he fits the club that the Phillies had. The Phillies are a very unique team, I think, where they are right now. Well, I should rephrase that.
He was spoiled. He was spoiled with the Yankees.
Well,
I mean,
yes.
he always had the closer, Mariano Rivera, available. He always had Derek Jeter at shortstop, A-Rod at third. I mean, he always had his everything set up for him. He never had to make any decisions.
Yeah,
Everything
he had
was
one of the
always,
most talented rosters
Right.
in
So,
baseball for an extended
Yeah,
period
I'd
of
say
time.
he's capable of managing. I don't think that he's capable of managing the Phillies. So I think there are teams that he could manage, and I think that the Phillies just aren't that team right now.
I think
I don't know if they will be.
I don't think he's going to get another gig, if
No,
I'm
he's
completely
not.
honest. So
I'm
we'll
sure
see.
he's enjoying his sports network.
Maybe he'll be a first base coach, third base coach, something. Who knows?
go back to MLB
Right, so
Network.
I'd love to hear him talk about the Phillies. All right, so I know, Alex, I told you we were going to do a prospect overview to end the podcast, but I put a prospect question right in the middle here. What are your expectations for Andrew Baker in 2023?
Ooh, I love that question. I think
You're about to go to
Drew
town.
Baker, no, well, truly, Drew Baker is one of those guys that, I mean, came out of nowhere, really, but has really, something has clicked there for sure. I mean, I watched every single one of his outings when he was on his streak, and then further on down the line. And he's just, it's very, I use this very sparingly, but it's very Gilesian, the way that things have just kind of clicked for him. With Ken Giles, he woke up one day and the command was just fixed. Everything was fixed. He figured it out. And it's really been that way with Drew Baker, to the point where, like, I mean, I have been flabbergasted by some of his stat lines. But I mean, he's amazing. Pumps 102. He really has found that command and has managed to pair it with a really solid breaking ball. I mean, he's one of those guys that I would not be shocked to see him start in AAA next year. They're probably going to start him in AA, maybe give him a couple of warm-up starts, warm-up appearances, and then, move his way up to AAA. But I mean, this is a guy out of the bullpen that's going to be a huge weapon for the Phillies one day. If he can manage to maintain that click that he found. But I would expect that he's going to be rocketed up the Phillies system. And I think he's probably going to be with the Major League Club in 2023 at some point. That obviously depends on what kind of signings they make this offseason. And how many guys they choose to bring into the bullpen. But I think Drew Baker is going to be one of those guys that if there's an injury or if there's, an open spot, one of their free agents isn't working out the way they wanted it to, he's the first guy they're going to call on. I mean, he is the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the spot that Drew Baker, I could see him thriving in, is where he kind of starts out in a lower leverage situation, because we've seen him have those struggles in the past, right? I mean, that was his first half of this season was not great, if I remember. He was allowing a lot of base runners. And it seemed, I do remember seeing, and this actually might have been you that posted this on Twitter, because I don't get a chance. I'll watch minor leagues once in a while. But I was at a few of the games he pitched in this year. He was very boomer bust. Like, he'd allow 2 runs, 3 runs, 4 runs, or he'd go down 1, 2,
That's
3.
exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that Andrew Baker, I agree. I think he starts in AA. I think that he should continue what he's been doing, because, we've seen that. It actually reminds me a little bit of Jose Alvarado, right? Because he's, just random resurgence. I mean, no one saw this coming. I mean, if you saw this coming, good for you. I didn't see this coming. I can tell you that right now.
No,
I kind of thought he was kind of lost after, after last year. I mean, he was okay in 2021. I thought he was fine to shove in the back of your bullpen for when you really, really needed him. But and then the beginning of this season, he was awful. His command was everywhere. He was leading pitches right over the plate. He wasn't using the cutter. He was using the cutter, A, not as much, and B, when he used it, I don't think it was used in the right situation. I don't know if that's the Phillies management, JT Realmuto, Garrett Stubbs, or if that is Alvarado. We'll obviously never know that. But no, I think Andrew Baker has a very good shot of contributing in 2023, given he does the right things to continue what he was doing in this season, which I think is, working in the off season and getting ready for, he could be a workhorse, right? Going from AA to AAA to making your major league debut. That's a lot of moving in one season. I think that he has to be prepared for that if he wants to be successful.
Yeah, I could agree.
All right, I have a question. Question number 4, rapid fire. If the Phillies make a deep run into the 2022 postseason, who will have to set the tone early in October?
Ooh, good question. I would think, honestly, I'm not sure how they're going to line up in these next few games. I'm sure nothing will change. But I think it's probably going to have to be Kyle Schwarber, especially if he is the guy, obviously the leader in the clubhouse, but if he's the guy that's leading off every day, I mean, he needs to come out strong. He has got to come out strong. And there's a good chance that he does. I mean, he's been strong of late, really, really solid over his last few games. And obviously, he's carrying a hot bat into the most important time of the year. That is a big deal. That being said, I really do wonder if they bump him down in the lineup a little bit. They might not. But if they were to, I feel like more of those big hits could come with runners on base. That being said, the last thing you want to do with a hot hitter is move his batting position. So we'll see. But I think that's who I'm putting it on. He's the leader de facto right now. So he's really got to keep his guys set and ready to go.
Yep. I was thinking Sir Anthony Dominguez. How much he's been struggling to end the season. He is a vital role in this bullpen in the postseason. Everyone knows he's going to be used a lot. So he really has to step up and set the tone by turning it around and pitching well.
That would be huge. I mean, that's a very big difference maker, especially really these two. Can we say hopefully 3? I mean,
hopefully not 3 if it's in the Phillies' favor.
I don't know.
I would like it to be 2 so I can take the Jets Eagles on Sunday.
That's fair. That's fair.
What time is the game? What time would the game be Sunday?
I don't think they mentioned. I think it was either 7 or 8, depending on if New York.
Oh, that's fine.
San Diego.
I believe it's 8.
Okay, that's fine. The Eagles game should be over by then. Still 1-2.
To go off on a tangent real quick, this isn't one of our questions, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, Alex. If I'm saying right now, Game 3 would go horribly if we get there, because when I see Ranger Suarez, especially after what happened yesterday, and sure, there might be special circumstances after a late night yesterday, but with what I saw yesterday, and I look at this St. Louis Cardinals lineup that is right-handed heavy, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Pujols. I don't really like the way that matches up. So I'm not too confident going into a Game 3. I mean, it's not like you have any other options, right? Because you can't pitch Bailey Falter, because that's the same issue right there, lefty-lefty. You're obviously not going to pitch Kyle Gibson, and Noah Syndergaard hasn't been consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I fully agree, just because I don't think yesterday's start really has any bearing.
No, I agree with that. I agree with.
And I think of any of these guys, even Aaron Nola, who's as even keel as it gets, Suarez is the most. You put him in a high pressure scenario, he's going to come through. He always seems to. So I feel as if that, especially obviously playoff lives on the line. I feel like he would do well. That being said, you're definitely on the money with. In fact, the only guy that I would be scared of if I were Ranger Suarez is Albert Pujols. Arenado, Goldschmidt, they're both great right-handed hitters, right? But
he'll change the game though, because it's home run or bust. Well, I shouldn't say home run or bust, but he's if you look at his home runs, most of them are to tie the game or take the lead. So he comes up in those big situations. So
Are you talking about Albert Pujols?
yes, Pujols.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Ranger Suarez, he can counter that or negate that because you see he is the calmest pitcher on the mound, right? Nothing really phases him. So, I mean, I think that if it gets to a game 3, which for the Phillies' sake, hopefully it doesn't, I think that will be a very good matchup for Suarez against the Cardinals lineup. That'll be fun to watch.
Oh, you think? I'm not sure if it's an ideal matchup, but
no,
it
I
will
don't
be.
think it is either.
It will be interesting to watch. And what you also have to consider is, who are the Cardinals throwing in that scenario? Is it
Right.
Jose Quintana? No, Jose Quintana starting game 1. So
right.
What is it?
If it's Montgomery, who's
sure, but then
Jack
if it's like
Flaherty's in there,
Michaelis,
it's not
Wainwright. They've seen Wainwright twice this year.
Wainwright will not throw.
I think it depends. It depends on what they are, how they're lining up and how desperate they are or how they view the metrics, whatever. But I don't think I'd necessarily be as scared of the game 3 starter for the Cardinals as the Cardinals would be of Ranger Suarez.
Cardinals pitching has been struggling recently.
Correct. So
right. So
we'll see. It's gonna be interesting.
The Cardinals' pitching does not faze me at all. The only thing I'm worried about is if the Phillies hitting. As we know, the Phillies like to not hit when they're playing pitchers that aren't great at pitching. Of course. So it should be interesting if the Phillies remember how to hit bad pitchers, or not bad pitchers, but not great pitchers. So it should be interesting. I think it's going to be a good series.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your key to success against St. Louis? Do you have one specific thing that you're looking for?
I think that they have to play good defense. I think that is the ultimate, because look, I was just talking about this on our podcast, on our Inside the Phillies podcast. You look at these teams and, lineup wise, it's a little bit as one of my co-hosts said, it's a little bit of a wash, right? You look at that lineup, obviously 2 top MVP candidates in Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. And then, Albert Pujols has been amazing. After that, not a lot to go off of. With the Phillies, a great top 4, but then things start to get, and obviously what's been a big strength is the bottom of their lineup, which is great. But that bottom of the lineup really has to show up here, right? So I would call it about even in terms of lineups. I would call it about even in terms of bullpen, especially if Ryan Helsley's out, which he's not expected to be,
huge.
but he's not expected to be anymore. Oli Marmol said that he's expected to be ready to go for
finger
game 1.
Is what I believe I saw. So
but you never know. That could just be posturing. That could be whatever. If Helsley's out, then I would even maybe give a slight minimal edge to the Phillies. But as things currently stand, pretty even. I mean, you match up Helsley with Alvarado, and then past that, it's very, I would say it's about even.
Yeah.
And then, in terms of rotation, I'd give the edge to the Phillies. But I mean, in terms of defense, I'd give the edge immensely to the Cardinals.
Because you said the Phillies have to play good defense. The Cardinals, that's not a question. They will play good defense.
Oh, they have
they've got gold glovers everywhere
at every single
position.
Every single one. So it's the Phillies have to play good defense if they want to match up well against the Cardinals, because that is the one area in which they are completely lacking when you compare them against the team they're facing.
Right. So I want to go back. You said something about the bullpen. They've got Ryan Helsley, Jordan Hicks, a lot of guys with high velocity. The Phillies brought up Derek Hall to be in pinch hitting situations. Obviously, a pinch hit situation would come later in a game, but with these, we know that Derek Hall does not hit fastballs well, especially high velocity. When he was coming through the Phillies system, that was the biggest concern. Can he hit a major league fastball? With that being said, what role does Derek Hall have in this 3-game series, if any?
I think it's less a question of what role Derek Hall has and more a question of what role Nick Maton has. Nick Maton, who is among the best fastball hitters in baseball right now. I mean, he is on one when it comes to hitting a fastball, which probably means he's going to play a pretty significant role in this series, especially late in the game when you see Ryan Helsley, when you see Jordan Hicks, when you see Giovanni Gallegos, when you see Genesis Cabrera, right? Like any of those guys are 95 and up. So that becomes a pretty significant question. As for Derek Hall, I mean, first he has to make the postseason roster. I'm assuming he does, because he probably should. But I think he probably is one of those guys that you see come in as mostly a replacement for somebody like, maybe if Nick Castellanos is struggling, he takes over for Nick Castellanos. Maybe if, you've got, I can't even think of what's in it. Like maybe if Matt Vierling has had a bad game, maybe you throw Derek Hall in there as a bat, and then you throw Marsh in center, or whoever was playing right field, somebody else trots out.
Who do you have in center for game one?
Brandon Marsh. It's got to be Brandon Marsh.
Okay.
Brandon Marsh is amazing. And also, I mean, look, I don't think that him losing the baseball and the lights twice is a common occurrence. I think that is just two really inconvenient,
and they're playing in the day game one too. So
sure. Right. So that's going to factor in, but I throw Marsh in there. No doubt. Marsh has looked like a totally different hitter since joining the Phillies, and you need that bat in there, especially if they're facing a righty, which they're not in game one, but I would still throw Marsh out there. I think Vierling, if they need to, can serve as a pinch hitter, can serve as, a defensive replacement if they want to get creative with their pinch hitting, things like that. But I think you got to have Marsh in the lineup. He's been really good.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that Matt Vierling has swung the bat over the past week and a half, I'll say I wouldn't be opposed if the matchup is right, throwing Vierling in there, especially like you said, disagree. if like a Castellanos is struggling or something like that. So I believe you have one last question. Is that right, Ben?
Yes, but a tweet just popped up my thing from the Cardinals writer at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
Goldie.
The playoff rules in the MLB. There is the DH in both leagues. The 3-batter minimum applies. 13 pitcher max on the 26-man roster. And there's no spontaneously generated runner in scoring position to start any extra bases.
So the Manfred man is gone.
Yes.
I did hear some rumors about that, or not rumors, but something people were questioning whether or not that would be in play, and I'm honestly very surprised by that.
I think it makes it the most fair iteration of the sport.
100%.
So, I mean, nobody wants to lose to a phantom runner. That just feels so stupid. So, I think that's great, and I think if I had to guess, I'd say the Phillies are probably going to carry 12 pitchers. By the way, I don't think the 13 pitcher maximum is going to apply to them. I think they're going to carry 12. I don't think Gibson makes the postseason roster. It depends on what happens with Brad Hand. I don't think Nick Nelson makes the postseason roster.
I do not. There's this. I was telling Ben this the other podcast. For some reason, this whole topic makes me so frustrated. There is no situation in a 3-game wildcard series that I want to watch Nick Nelson pitch. I don't really care what the score is. I mean, it's a wild card series. We've seen the Phillies come back with, 4 runs, 5 runs before, and especially if the Cardinals bullpen does not have Ryan Helsley, it is average.
Well, he's taken his spot is kind of supplanted by Noah Syndergaard, who I would assume is going to take that role. So I don't think Nick Nelson is.
No, there's no spot for Nick Nelson on this team.
So I think they probably go 12 wild card
series. Yep. Yes, and I think it's great to have that defensive depth too. And I know that I think a lot of the positions they struggle in defensively, they don't have a great replacement for. Like first base, Derek Hall is not better than Rhys Hoskins. Fielding percentage wise, he is. But I mean, the grand scheme of things, I don't know how much of an influence that has.
Just having watched him coming through the system, I can tell you he's probably a better defender than Rhys Hoskins.
Yeah, I think especially in turn, and you watch more minor league than I do. Picking the ball, it seems like he's much better. It doesn't hit off his hand as much or pop up, which we see that with Hoskins semi-regular. I shouldn't say regularly, but we see it occur probably more often than it should, especially on some of those shorter hops, which probably should not happen. But yeah, I think having that depth there is good, especially in a 3-game series where all 3 games are played back to back. And when you need to win, I mean, if you lose more than 1 game, you're out, right? So you need to put out the best defensive lineup. I'd even say come the 8th inning, not the 9th inning.
And a lot of what people don't really think about, Nick Maton obviously plays all infield positions outside of first base, and now obviously takes corner outfield as well. Dalton Guthrie, I'm not sure if he makes the postseason roster, but Dalton Guthrie plays everything. Like everything.
Right. I mean, he's starting at third base today.
Was drafted as an elite shortstop, played center field for, most of his minor league career. Played a lot of corner outfield, but he plays second, short, third. So if they need him to, he can play there. Same with Matt Vierling. Matt Vierling, has played second base, has played third base. So that's a lot of versatility. Now, is that something you'd want to see in a playoff game? No, but if you need to get creative with your pinch hitting, with your pinch hitting decisions, if you need to get creative, it's important that you have somebody to come in that's played the position before. So I think they can do it.
Right. And I think that is a possibility too, because we've seen the Phillies offense be very up and down, and we've seen Rob Thompson make, I guess we can call them creative decisions that are atypical. So yeah, I think that is a big possibility coming into, again, I keep going back to this, a 3-game series, but all 3 games are played in a row.
Right.
I think that has more of an impact, but it's being overlooked right now.
Sure.
All right. So I think with that, you want to go into our
I have my final question.
Oh, yeah, one more question? Okay.
I do. This is not a Phillies question. This is a baseball question that has been floating around everywhere, really. Aaron Judge hit home run number 62.
Barry Bonds is the real record.
Okay.
That's it.
That answers my question.
It happened during a major league season, regular season. I mean, everybody and their mom used steroids at that point. And look, people still use steroids now. Look at Fernando Tatis Jr., right? It's just a matter of being caught. So, and that's not to say that Aaron Judge is using steroids. He is certainly not. That man is every bit as large as he needs to be to hit 62 home runs. Just blessed with genetics, but Barry Bonds is the real record. It is.
Do you think Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? And
yes.
I
think Roger Clemens deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Do you think Barry Bonds is the best player in baseball history?
Yes.
Okay.
I certainly do. I think I wouldn't say the best player in baseball history. I think he is the best hitter that baseball has ever seen. But I don't think he is the best player. In fact, I think the only person that can unseat him that is in the major leagues right now as best hitter that baseball has ever seen could be Juan Soto. I mean, I think that Juan Soto, people are sleeping on Juan Soto somehow. A 23-year-old that's already accrued the stuff that he's done is pretty crazy. But I mean, Albert Pujols was also pretty close to unseating Barry Bonds. So I wouldn't knock it if you were to say Albert Pujols was better either. But yeah, Barry Bonds, best hitter that baseball has seen for sure.
I think that even though Juan Soto doesn't have those elite results, and let me rephrase that. He is incredible at 23 years old. And even though that we know he's going to improve, I think there are certain signs that you can see when you watch him hit to kind of show that he has the talent to be an elite hitter. Like, the one thing that I see is how incredible his eye is and his plate discipline. Like, when I look at someone as their ability to hit, I think the plate discipline is huge in that. Because, I mean, that's hitting, right? When you're a major league player, they're throwing the ball. We're going to see a guy hit 105, 106, I think, in the next few years.
In a season?
Really deciding.
In a season?
No. I meant miles per hour with pitching velocity.
Oh, sure.
And
wow, I was gonna say.
No, and I mean, you never know. We've seen something crazy, but no, that's not gonna happen. That's absurd. But we've seen these guys; they're pumping these fastballs out ridiculous. I mean, Ryan Helsley and what's the guy from the Giants? Duvall, right?
Oh, Camilo Duvall.
Yeah, Camilo Duvall they both hit 104 this year. To decide whether or not you want to hit a pitch from 60 and a half feet away is very impressive. And I think that's what really shows that he's going to be an elite hitter come a few years.
Yeah,
and he is right now, I think.
He's my favorite. I think that he's so different especially at his age. I mean, there's nothing like it. He's really, I love watching him. I think if anybody has a chance to unseat Barry Bonds as the home run king, it's Juan Soto, especially just given how young he is. I mean, it's
right.
amazing.
And most guys are at 0. Like at his age, most guys are at 0 right now.
So like people are talking about O'Neal Cruz, right? O'Neal Cruz is the new fascination of baseball, right? O'Neal Cruz is older than Juan Soto. Like Juan Soto has already been in the league for 6 years. And O'Neal Cruz just got here. What I love about Juan Soto, I mean, already at 125 home runs, hasn't even come close to reaching his power peak yet. But also has already accrued 23.2 WAR. I love him. I think he's amazing. I think
that's ridiculous,
and that's without being a good defender, by the way. So that's always fun.
Yeah. Before we move on, we're gonna flash it back to April 8th, 2022, opening day at Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
True that.
And how did we both get those tickets? And how can you get postseason tickets? Is by using SeatGeek. You knew I was going to throw in an advertisement. SeatGeek is the best place to get your tickets for anything you need tickets for, either that's a sporting event, a concert, whatever you need. Go into SeatGeek. It's the easiest way to get your tickets. All you have to do is download the app or go to SeatGeek.com, get your tickets, and at checkout, if you want to save $20 off, use code Philly Sports Report. It's right there on the screen. I bet you Colin is flashing the heck out of it right now on that screen. Code Philly Sports Report at checkout at SeatGeek. $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek is the best way to get your tickets. So when you're looking to buy tickets, check SeatGeek first and use code Philly Sports Report.
Thank you, Ben. That was very astute of you.
Beautiful.
Astute. That was very professional. All right, so we want to get into our playoff predictions. Are we going to go how shallow are we going to go with this here, Ben?
We're doing American League, National League, and World Series. But first, I want to ask you, Alex, how far do you have the Phillies going?
It's a good question. I would like to say that they make the NLDS. I'm not sure they will. I for whatever reason, my head says that the Phillies have the advantage here, especially in the pitching department, right? They have the rotational advantage, which should theoretically put them at a W here. My heart says no, and I don't know why. It's something that I'll be grappling with for the next 2 days. But yeah, right now, I think I have them as wild card outs, and I think that's okay. They accomplished their goal. I do think that they're gonna put up a fight for sure. But I for whatever reason I don't have them getting past this round. And I think they accomplished their goal. They found their manager of the future. Got a lot of great production from some young guys, but yeah, for me, I think they're wild card exits, unfortunately.
Colin, where do you have this team going?
Second that.
I'm kind of in the same boat, but I know why I think they're gonna lose, and I think the offense will take over and just do a classic Phillies and just not hit bad pitching. But with how Nola was the other night and how I think Wheeler will pitch, for some reason, I'm the most unoptimistic person you might ever meet. But I think the Phillies do it. I think they get out of the wild card, and I think they lose in the NLDS, which is perfectly fine. Also, this is part of me because I bought NLDS tickets earlier today, so I would like to see a playoff game. But for some reason, I think the Phillies get in the NLDS and get swept in the NLDS.
I think that's fair. I think that, especially when you look at Zach Wheeler's track record against the Cardinals, Aaron Nola pitched a shutout against them last year, right? Mm-hmm. By all means, they have the pitching advantage. I'm just not sure if that's enough. And especially when you get into the big stage, defense is so important. And I don't know if they'll have it, but I would love to be wrong. I would absolutely love to be wrong. I'd love to see, a playoff game in Philadelphia. I think that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean the issue that I see, and before we get into this, I'll be really quick, so I know we want to wrap this up, especially Phillies coming on. It's 4 or 8 Eastern time right now. But the Cardinals, the top 4 in the Cardinals lineup could single-handedly produce all of their runs to win a game, and that's what scares me the most because you've got guys up there with a high average who get on base, and you've got Goldschmidt, Arenado, Pujols is what I'm assuming they're gonna how Ollie Marmol's gonna line them up. But
I don't
even
know.
if there's,
I think Brendan Donovan's gonna be leading
Yeah,
off
no.
for sure.
Oh yeah, I think that Donovan's going to be leading off, and then you'll have, I don't know, you could put Tommy Edman there, you could put Lars Nootbaar there. Well, see how that plays out. But the Donovan, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Pujols, that right there, they can single-handedly win that game. And we've seen games where the Cardinals win because they score 6 runs and Paul Goldschmidt has 4 RBIs and Nolan Arenado has 2 RBIs or vice versa, where, and then even if those guys at the bottom of the lineup start producing, Tommy Edman, Yadier Molina, and that comes back up to the top, that is very dangerous. And the thing is, that's very similar to the Phillies, which is why I think it's a very evenly matched series. Because when the bottom of our lineup produces, it's when we have the most success. I mean, you go back to any game where we win by a pretty good margin, we're getting into a winning streak, the bottom of the lineup is setting up the top of the lineup. And that's what concerns me going into this series from the Phillies standpoint, looking into the Cardinals lineup. So with that said, where do you have the end of the postseason going when you come to late October, early November?
We're going to start American League. Who's your American League champion?
Yeah.
Oh, I really want to say this, and I have a feeling that I'll be wrong. I think it's the Blue Jays.
Yes!
I think it's the Blue Jays. I mean,
our Blue Jays.
The rotation did not come out the way that I wanted it to this season, but I really do think that lineup, I mean, you look at that lineup and you look at some of those guys' postseason numbers. I mean, they have George Springer leading off. George Springer is the greatest postseason hitter that of the last decade. He's amazing. So I really think that he gives them a really solid edge. Plus, they obviously have a ton of talent. And that bullpen's really solid. I think they can do it. I think they can do it. And I would really love it to be them. I would really, really love it to be them. Just because they deserve it. They really have they've built a really good team. And I think that unfortunately, because of just how well things were running for the Yankees earlier in the season, I think that they got unseated, but I think it's going to be the Blue Jays year for the American League.
Colin?
Yeah, I have to go the Yankees. And I don't want to say Yankees, but I mean, their lineup's incredible. They're of course, their bullpen, I think, has some question marks in it. I don't think it's specifically good or specifically bad. But, I mean, we just saw them have a ridiculous amount of success in the beginning of the season. And it seems like the Yankees just have too much historic postseason success to have a first or second round exit after that incredible historical start to just completely have a clunker in the postseason. What do you got?
Me, it pains me to say it, but no one's stopping the Astros.
I could agree.
The pitching, the offense, everything it's one of the most all-around good, best teams we've ever seen. I mean, other than the Dodgers right now, obviously, but they're so good. I just don't see anyone stopping them. I have the Astros as American League champions.
They're pretty good.
That would be my number 2 team right there. I mean, neither team would surprise me. They're just too dominant, both of them. I mean, especially the Astros. The Astros are just all around incredible. They're fun to watch.
Let's move on to the National League. Alex, National
Dodgers.
League champion.
It's Dodgers. It's gotta be. I don't see how you can put Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner on the same team and they don't win. I don't see how that is even close to being possible. I don't see how especially Julio Urias, the season he's had. They have a bunch of weapons out of the bullpen right now. I just cannot see them losing. I can't. And look, it's probably going to be another year of like Braves magic, or maybe the Padres come in and upset everybody. But like, man, if the Dodgers don't win this year, I don't see any way they can win. It's insane. That team is so good.
Yeah,
Don't
I'm
say
also the Dodgers.
Okay, I thought he was going to say the Cardinals.
No.
I think this whole postseason is going to be rigged for the Cardinals.
No, that's not true. No, all that stuff is ridiculous. Albert Pujols won the home run derby.
He beat the Phillies. Here's my theory.
Oh my God.
The MLB and every other sports league hates Philadelphia. I think the home run derby they put Pujols last and Schwarber first to rig it so Philadelphia would be out. You saw that Schwarber had like 2 or 3 more home runs, and they didn't count it. So I think that was all rigged. I think this wild card series is going to be rigged as well.
All right.
I think this whole thing's rigged.
The Dodgers, the Dodgers are the national champions. This is the most irrational reason ever. And as I try to be rational. It makes me so frustrated. This is my reason, but it is. The Dodgers have just been so dominant over the past. I mean, really, ever since I started watching baseball.
9 years.
For them to, for them just not to win a World Series in a regular season, which is why, I guess I'm going first for the next segment because I have the Dodgers winning the World Series. It's impossible for them not to. Alex said it. Their lineup's ridiculous. Solid starting pitching, even with a little bit of injury issues there. And their bullpen has really that's never been an issue for them. And I can't see the Dodgers not winning a World Series since being dominant for so. And I don't even use the word dominant, like having a good season. They are the best team in the league almost every single year since I can remember. It's unreal. It's unreal.
I also have the Dodgers. I've been watching a lot of baseball since I was like 7, and this is the best team I have ever seen in my entire life. Everything, as I said with the Astros, everything is there times 2 with the Dodgers.
Yep.
So it pains me to say it, but I always hate doing it. But I have the 2-1 seeds in the World Series. Colin said the Dodgers are winning. Alex, what's your World Series champion?
I would love to say the Blue Jays. I would love to, but I just can't. I think it's the Dodgers.
I have a 7-game series with the Astros and the Dodgers again.
That would just cause like baseball world chaos right there.
Exactly, and that's why I love it. And I think the Dodgers flip the script, and the Dodgers win the World Series. And as I said, everything is there for them times 2, and it's ridiculous. And I think the Dodgers win the World Series. And I hate to say it because I hate the Dodgers, but
I can't wait to see if that happens.
It's bound to happen.
If that happens, I cannot wait to see Dodger Stadium. That would be great. Game 7 in Dodger Stadium.
I will say, I tweeted out my World Series prediction on opening day. And I had the Brewers over the Red Sox. Both teams are not in the playoffs, so that was.
That's your fault.
Yeah,
that is your fault. That is your fault.
Yeah, or maybe it was the Red Sox over the Brewers. No matter what, I had the Brewers and Red Sox in the World Series, and I highly did.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Brewers had an awful deadline. That was just embarrassing from, I almost got secondhand embarrassment off that. I don't even know why, because I don't like the Brewers, but that was just bad. And people were complaining about the Phillies deadline, which I don't know how it's possible, because we got 3 guys. We got Brandon Marsh turned out pretty well. David Robertson for the first month was solid, and I'm sure he'll hopefully turn it around the postseason. But
he's got to get those blue cleats back.
Yeah, he needs the blue cleats back. But no, I don't know. The Brewers their season's been strange. Their offense is just so incredibly bad. I think I feel like I'm going off another tangent here, so I'm going to stop. But they relied on so many guys to have good offensive seasons based on one cherry picked season, like Keston here, who was great for the first few months that he was a rookie. And Andrew McCutchen, maybe returning to MVP form. Like, no, I really didn't see them being good from the get-go. I didn't understand the whole Brewer thing there, but the whole sensation they were going to be this incredible team. All right, so I want to go. I guess we'll start with Andrew Painter because it's kind of hard not to. What did you see from Painter in 2022 that really won him this all these honors? He's getting MLB pipeline. And then he got another one. I'm sure you'll know.
He got Baseball America's #1 pitching prospect, MLB pipelines. He's probably going to get prospectuses. Yeah, pretty good. What did I see from him just in general?
Just in general. I mean, what won him this award?
He's crazy. He's absolutely wild. I mean, solid. I think what mostly did it for him. I mean, as soon as they drafted him, when he took leaps and bounds at the complex, as soon as those reports started coming out, it was over. I mean, he was automatically just ascending through, leagues and leagues of prospect charts. But he, it's mostly just commanding the two primary pitches, which right now are the fastball and the slider, and then working on the changeup. That changeup has a chance to be his best secondary, which is just insane. He just needs to refine a little bit more, but he is just, it's the command, the limiting the walks, and just overall the sharpness of the stuff. He is a complete package. He's proven he has the durability now. I still don't know how they're going to approach 2023 with him. I think, calling him up would be cool, but that's a 20-year-old taking on, a major league amount of innings. It's a little bit much for me. So maybe they wait for the second half and they really limit his first half innings down in the minors. Who knows? But I think that he took a huge step forward, from the day he was drafted, put a couple ticks on his fastball, developed those secondaries, and now he's the best pitching prospect in baseball, probably.
I agree 100%. He has to be the best pitching prospect in baseball. I mean, there really aren't. I mean, I think the bats right now in the pipeline.
There's a bunch. There's a bunch of really good pitching prospects out there. Or do you mean just for the Phillies?
I mean, I think that the Phillies are definitely pitching heavy right now.
Yeah.
I think they got Mick Abel, Griff McGarry, but
definitely.
I mean, we've seen. I don't know. And again, you follow this more than I do. What I've seen is the little tidbits from hearing and reading is that it seems that Andrew Painter, of the prospects that were supposed to be successful, he's been the most successful or exceeded those expectations the most. So I know there were some, and I don't like to use the word struggled, but I think that has a different meaning than, maybe not having the best season ever in single A or double A. But I think that he's been just overall, in general, the most consistent, A, and B, the most, I hate to use the word surprising, but I mean, I'm going to, because it's been a surprise, and it's almost been like a treat to see him pitch this well, or we saw him pitch this well.
Lots of really, really good pitching prospects out there. Definitely stood their ground, right. Emphasized their prospect status. I mean, Yuri Perez, you've got, what's his name from the Giants? Led the minors in strikeouts this year. He's amazing. But primarily, I think what you look at when you look at Andrew Painter is a guy that, obviously high school arms are always risky. So people were very tentative with ranking him. And now he's come out and he's proven that he is, the guy that he was supposed to be. And so he's ascending up those prospect charts now because he is just that good.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm with you here. I don't think that bringing up Andrew Painter in especially early 2023, is the right move there.
It's a nice option to have. I will tell you what.
Oh yeah, it's a great option to have, especially if the Phillies, their coaching staff thinks that he's major league ready. Then that's a great option to have. But is there really a harm with having at that time 21-year-old kid in your minor league system? Is there? No, he's 19 now, right?
He is, yeah. He just turned 20.
So having a 20-year-old kid in your at double A or triple A, I mean, there really is no problem with that, right?
No, but when you're ready, you're ready. And
Right,
you
that's true.
can never really tell with baseball. It's a fickle sport. So when they're ready, you
Mhm.
might as well, call them
Give him
up.
that
But I
opportunity.
mean,
Right.
it's a sticky situation. It's very similar to that of Nate Pearson, uh, who was a top Blue Jays prospect, who has now kind of faded into obscurity because of injury. But it's a very similar situation. So you got to hope that he can just stay healthy, prove that this year that he certainly can. And I think that's the ultimate thing that they have to emphasize with him. And if that means that they keep him down in the minors all year, they got to do what they got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with that. I don't think that rushing him, there's no reason to do that, especially with Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez, and Bailey Falter coming out of nowhere. And really, since that Mets series, I remember that the end of August, finding that one good start, it's kind of he built that up to his ERA coming down to 3.9, I believe. I mean, that's pretty good if you ask me. So I don't think there's a reason to rush him right now. But you look at a guy who's progressed more in Griff McGarry, where do you see him falling, especially given that he was moved to the bullpen at the end of this year?
Yeah, I know that he ran out of gas towards the end of the year, but I know that they are considering, giving him a shot at the rotation out of spring training. I think that, that's a fine option to have again, but I am one who advocates for not rushing these guys. So I love Griff. I think he's done great this season. Really has done well to once again substantiate that he can limit the free passes, can command his stuff. The control is still a little bit out there, but I'm sure it will hone in. And if it doesn't, put that guy in the closer role immediately. That stuff is unbelievable. But yeah, I'm excited to see where all of these guys go. I mean, you talk about Griff, you talk about McAble, you talk about Andrew Painter, all these guys. They are all going to be major league ready next year.
It's exciting.
So at some point, at least. So I mean, it really just depends on who they feel is going to be able to handle the strain and handle the quality of hitters that they're going to face. And I'm just very excited to see what they end up doing. But it's never a bad thing to have too much pitching. I'll tell you what.
Right. I mean, you see it. Pitching can it wins you games. I mean, there are teams who have very, very strong pitching and weak lineups, but that's the reason they win their game is their pitching. Now, one more question on the pitching, the starting pitching specifically. So, I said this back before the Phillies traded away Ben Brown in the David Robertson deal. And at this point, this was when Ben Brown was having a lot of success down in Lakewood, I believe. Yes, he was down in Jersey Shore. Right, Lakewood, Jersey Shore. I mean, that's so confusing because they're still in Lakewood, but now they changed the name, and it's
Right.
That's all kind of odd. But yeah, so he's down with the Jersey Shore team. He was starting down there, finding some success. He gets traded. So at this point, I was saying 4. Now I'll say 3. It's unrealistic, I'd say, to have 3 rookie starting pitchers in a rotation at the same time. And you don't want them to, overstay their welcome in the minor leagues if they're ready. The Phillies find themselves in, desperate need of a specific position or a spot in the bullpen. I guess not bullpen because you can bring one of those guys, but in the lineup, if there's a hole in the lineup come the deadline next year, are you dealing any of these 3 guys?
No.
To get a big bat? No.
I think, first of all, you have to look at the roster construction and say, okay, well, realistically, where is there going to be a hole in the lineup? I mean, most realistically, I suppose you could say center field, or I suppose you could say shortstop, which they're probably going to fill this season. I mean, they are pretty much locked into the hitters that they have, right? Unless they're going to make some drastic change with, shipping off Rhys Hoskins, moving Alec Boehm to first base, signing a third baseman, something like that. I don't see that happening.
I don't either.
I think that, there really isn't going to be much that they can upgrade bat wise. That's not like a platoon role or like a bench bat role, kind of like what the Mets did this trade deadline where they acquired, guys like Darren Ruff. Obviously that did not work out. But also
and Tyler Naquin didn't really work out. He didn't really work out.
No, not really. So, it's they're pretty much locked in. hitter wise. So
Yeah,
the only thing that
I
they could
agree.
realistically ship these guys out for is like, a closer, which I also don't think they'll go into next season without a closer. And, maybe a bullpen arm, something like that. And at that point, you're just better off using those guys, right?
Right.
You're
Yeah,
better off
especially
just
if you're
calling up
at
Griff McGarrett.
in August there.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, and with what you said about Rhys Hoskins, I don't see that happening either. Mainly because the one issue that a lot of people had with Rhys Hoskins was the hot for a week, and then you're awful for like 3.5 weeks there. I think he's actually eliminated a lot of that this season from just, and I'm not going to go into like specific months and game logs and how he did in this 3-week span, but I think that's cherry picking. But just from watching almost every game the Phillies have played this season, he's been a lot more consistent than we've seen in the past. And I mean, can you complain about having a guy who's going to hit, what's he hitting now? 245, 250?
Doesn't even matter. Can you complain
yeah.
about a guy that's
No,
near 800
no,
OPS with 30 home
exactly.
runs? No,
you can't. 800 OPS and 30 home runs is, I mean, that is OPS and home runs are what people look for right now. So
I mean, it's what they should have been looking for all along. But
oh yeah, I mean, batting average.
I digress.
Past. I mean, does it matter if you get a single or a walk? Does it really matter? I mean, it's the same outcome. So yeah, I love OPS, and I love who doesn't love home runs. So I just don't see the reason. I can't figure out the rationale that would allow the Phillies front office to explain why they, theoretically would trade Rhys Hoskins.
He's going to have a high arbitration price tag, probably
somewhere
around
that's true.
12 million or so at this point.
I would be surprised if he goes more for more than that.
Maybe. But the price tag is going to be substantial, and he is replaceable, right? Like the Phillies have multiple guys on their team currently that profile better as first baseman. You probably have Alec Boehm in that category, Kyle Schwarber maybe in that category. There's ways to fill first base automatically. You could argue that they have a bit of a logjam there. The problem is you're not going to get any value for him, and dumping him at that point for zero value doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And especially when he is such a strong voice in the clubhouse and is a good baseball player.
Yes, that's what I'm looking at here. He's solid. I mean, he is what you need out of a first. He is stereotypical first baseman. I mean, like star first baseman.
He's better than Matt Olson this year. That's all you really need to talk about.
For sure. Yes.
And let me pull it up, because this is where I get a little bit picky with people on Twitter about this, because people act like that there are so many elite first basemen out there that are just better than Rhys Hoskins.
There are not.
I mean,
now while you're pulling that up, last thing with first base here, where do you see Derek Hall next year then?
I honestly don't know. It is hard to say. I think that while I would absolutely love to see Derek Hall with the Phillies for a long time to come, I'm not sure there is a position that he can realistically fill outside of just a platoon role on the bench. And even then, he is very limited defensively. So I know that they had given him the opportunity prior to this season to explore opportunities overseas. I'm not sure if there will be teams that, look to trade for him. I mean, he makes a lot of sense for a team like the Pirates or, a rebuilding team that needs a power bat to stand at first base, especially if, something with like a salary floor or something like that gets implemented. Teams are going to want to be competitive. Not that that's even close to happening, but I think that if he wants to stay on the bench, the Phillies will give him that opportunity. If he doesn't, I'm sure they will give him the go ahead to explore other opportunities or even look to deal him. But just given how positionally limited he is and how and situationally limited, I mean, he can't hit lefties.
He can't. He can't hit the high fastball. I mean, pretty much at the way baseball is trending, there aren't really many bullpens I think he could hit if he's matched up correctly.
It depends, but if he's going to get you any value on the open market, I think they look to deal him, especially because he, is taking up a valuable 40-man roster spot.
Yeah, All right, so I guess our last thing here with our our prospect talk is A, what are you looking for next season? Any bold predictions or anything? And B, do you have a favorite prospect? I'm curious here. I think based off what you tweet, I think I know where you're gonna go with this.
Interesting. What are my expectations? I mean, I think that there are a lot of guys in the Philly system, especially that have been brought in recently, that are just flying under the radar. I think a lot of those guys are some of the arms that they picked up in 2020 via undrafted free agency. I think Chase Antle is gonna finally be healthy next year. Hopefully, is going to give get a few good innings in. He is just one of my favorite guys that they managed to grab from that 2020 class. Noah Skiro is already in AAA, already throwing
great season.
140 plus innings this season. I mean, really, really good year from him. And hopefully, he'll just be able to stick at AAA and be some starting pitching depth for the Phillies, which they definitely need. Michael Plasmeyer is probably going to stay with the organization. I mean, he was absolutely unreal upon his acquisition. That is like one of the trades of the year for me. Austin Wynns turning into Plasmeyer, and Plasmeyer putting up the numbers he put up. That's crazy. And I mean, he's again going to be a nice piece of starting pitching depth for the Phillies. I think I'm obviously watching Johan Rojas, and I'm obviously watching Carlos De La Cruz. Carlos De La Cruz had a crazy breakout. Everybody and their mom always thought that Carlos De La Cruz was never going to make enough contact to make use of his 6'8" frame, even taller now apparently, which is just crazy. But it turns out he did this season, and the numbers really reflect it. So him being in Double A, succeeding in Double A, him being in High A, succeeding in High A. I mean, next stop is probably AAA. He'll get started in Reading, I'm sure, and log some games there. But then it's AAA. I would say he has leapfrogged Jalen Ortiz at this point, which is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be really interesting to watch. Johan Rojas obviously is a huge person to watch. I think the lower minors are where it's going to be at next year, though. I mean, you see all the guys they drafted this year. Justin Crawford is going to be a big one to watch, and Marion Boyd is going to be a big one to watch. I think my bold prospect take is that Marion Boyd is probably going to have a better season next year than Justin Crawford. I don't think that Marion Boyd is a better player necessarily. I just think that Marion Boyd is going to have a better season next year, just because Marion Boyd is so well suited for the low minor league play. He's just going to be able to, steal bags on bunt singles, and his average is going to be high, and it'll be great. And he's definitely faster than Justin Crawford. So that'll be really interesting to watch. And then my favorite prospect. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I have one right now. I mean, usually I have guys that are under the radar and really, super fun to watch, but I feel like a lot of those guys have been publicized this year. I mean, Hao-Yu Lee, just an amazing hitter.
He was awesome.
Very, very excited to watch him continue to grow.
He'll start in Jersey Shore.
Yeah, probably.
Think,
if I had to guess, lots of really exciting guys probably coming from overseas. I would say that you're probably going to see Ricardo Perez, William Bergola may make his way over next year. Lots of guys lots of pitchers who had really strong FCL and DSL seasons in Jaden Estanista, Maxwell Hernandez, lots of really, really good showings over there. So not sure I have a favorite as of right now. Maybe Marcus Lee Sang as like a favorite under the radar kind of guy. He had a really good year and has just gotten better every single year that he's been in the organization since they drafted him in 2019. All these years kind of start blending together. But I mean, just was totally raw when he came into the system, and now is really starting to refine himself and really developing into a guy that could have 5 average or above tools. So I'm excited about all of them. I think that there's a lot of talent in this organization now.
I agree.
Not necessarily, not necessarily elite talent, as elite as like, Andrew Painter or Mick Abel or Griff McGarry, but I mean, lots of good depth talent. And that is what every organization needs. They've done a really good job of shoring up the farm system. And that's honestly really exciting. I mean, when is the last time you can remember this Phillies team having the ability to trade away two of their top prospects during the deadline and still come out of it with, a top three pitching prospects that rivals any organization in all of the major leagues?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. They shipped off Logan O'Hoppe and they shipped off Ben Brown, and they're still going strong in the farm system. So that for me is really exciting. And it shows that there is a real turnaround that's gone on with the system. And I'm really excited to see where things go. Next year is going to be a good one for Phillies minor league baseball.
I'm excited. No, I love watching minor league baseball and following the prospects. So I'm excited too, because I think there are a lot of names out there people just really don't know to watch. So, but now before we wrap the podcast, I want to go back to a few things we touched on. You mentioned Chase Antle. He's had a lot of injuries.
Yes.
Really, even like when he was younger, high school, college. Did he go to? I can't remember. Did he go to college?
He was in.
Sure.
I think he was in JUCO. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
No, he put up a strong collegiate season. Let me tell you, I really can't remember. Put up a strong collegiate season before signing. He was with Coastal Carolina. There you go.
Okay, right, yeah. So,
but he was at Bowling Green State prior, and I couldn't even tell you I know where that is. So he had a really strong. What propelled him was he had a really strong summer league showing, and then went into Coastal Carolina. Obviously, got hurt, but he is a guy that if he can stay healthy, obviously big if he can stay healthy, he pumps very high gas, and pairs a couple good breaking pitches with it. He's really exciting. Yeah.
So, and none of those injury concerns, none of that really concerns you? The prior injuries?
Of course, but any prospect as injury prone as they are is just as likely to get hurt as any other one. This is a huge gamble, and it's not like they spent a high draft pick on Antle, right? He was an undrafted free agent. So, these are the risks you take, but they're the smart risks to take because, these guys can get hurt. I mean, look at Zach Wheeler, right? He got hurt. He was injury prone as all hell prior to joining the Phillies, joins up with the Phillies, has been healthy for 3 years now. So, sometimes injury proneness is a thing. Sometimes it's not. And guys are just as likely to get injured and have their careers ravaged than, somebody with a completely clean health record.
Yeah. So another thing you talked about is Justin Crawford. Do his struggles he started out in the Florida Coast League. Is that still what they call it? No, it's Florida. Yeah, Florida. And then he came to the low A ball. And he looked like he wasn't getting on his base as much and wasn't hitting for as high of an average as he was in low A than he was down when he was in the FCL leagues. Does that concern any issues there, you think? Or
I mean, he only
used
played
to the new environment.
He only played like 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be worried at all. I also, they don't have streams for low A ball. So I haven't been able to watch any of that. But I mean, again, only 9 games or something to that effect. And so I wouldn't make any judgments based on what anybody saw from either of those stages of his career. Especially because he is going to be one of those guys that they are tinkering with constantly. He is not a perfect player by any means. There are a lot of things that he needs to fix. But I mean, he's got 4 tools that probably could translate to the major leagues within the next 2 years. So if he can really take command of his power, that's really all he needs to work on. He's got good hands and he's got good bat to ball skills. He just really needs to work on bulking up a little bit.
He had the best bat to ball skills in the draft. I will say that 100%.
Maybe. I would say
at least potential bat to ball skills.
He was rivaled by a few guys, but he was definitely up there. And when you get that combination of a premium defensive position, 4 really, really good tools, and then lacking in power, that is one of the easier tools to fix.
Right.
And it's also circumventable, right? I mean, you can just teach him to hit to the gaps and run for triples, and that's almost as effective as having that big bulky power. But at the same time, power is easier to acquire when you're still 18 years old. So hopefully if they can, it was a very risky pick. But
I agree with. Yes.
If they can get him to bulk up a little bit, he has the potential to be a real player. Very real. He is.
Yeah,
got a lot of
I
potential.
was impressed by his swing. Like his swing, I know you haven't really watched him play that much. His swing is very quiet. It reminds me a little bit almost of Bryson Stott with the way that he has that, how he has his hands back and he doesn't have a very aggressive stride, leg kick, whatever you want to call it, leg lift. And I think that's what contributes to his bat to ball skills. So I really think he gets stronger, and I think he's actually going to be someone who improves as he goes through the minor league system. Yeah. Because as you were talking about how he develops, and when I mean improve, obviously, I don't mean like, obviously that when you're going through the minor league system, you get promoted because you're having success. But I'm saying that I think that his numbers and his power and I think his bat to ball skills could still even be improved, even though they are well above average right now. I think that Justin Crawford has the potential to be a great player, but I think that it's a risky move for the Phillies, as in it's going to show us how good their minor league coaching is, because whether or not they can develop him with the tools that he has the potential to have, it's going to show whether their coaches are capable of, whether they're capable of reinforcing habits or teaching habits is how I'd like to put that.
Yeah, their whole 2022 draft. No, you're good.
I'm excited to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah, their whole 2022 draft was very much centered around their confidence in their development staff. So that'll be really an interesting one to look back on, I think.
Oh, I think that this draft will dictate a lot of what we see, the decisions they choose to make in future drafts. And how that kind of plays out. When we have this upcoming season, the minor leagues don't start as early as the major.
They start nearly directly after. There's
so like mid-April usually.
Around. It varies depending on when the season starts, because the season has been starting late March now, and that's like always very strange with how scheduling goes. But yeah, usually towards like the end of April.
Right. So I think that we're going to see. And I'd love to see the Phillies continue to make these risky picks, because that's where I think that's where you really see things pay off in the future. I mean, and again, it's just
sometimes
because
you can also just you can kind of look at the way that they've gone with Casey Martin, the way that they've gone with Ethan Wilson. Those guys are almost reaching non-prospect status at this point. So those were very risky picks. I loved those picks at the time. They have not worked. So a pick can go that direction, or it can go the direction of Andrew Painter and completely be a huge boon that they totally hit 100%. And he's now, one of the best pitching prospects in baseball.
Yeah. It's hard to see them not go that route, especially with the success they've had with Painter. And right now, the Phillies, I think that the prospects the Phillies draft in this upcoming draft are going to be very important. And I haven't begun to look at who they have there yet, but the reason I think this is because look at the guys you've got: Castellanos, Schwarber. We've got them for 4 more years. Bryce Harper's coming out of his prime. We're going to need younger guys to step up, I think, in the next, 4 or 5 years. I gotta say 3-4 years, right? Because you need them to.
You look at the core currently, and all of these guys are under control for quite some time. So,
right.
I wouldn't say necessarily that they need any position player prospects to really step up just yet. But there is always a chance that improvements need to be made, or that some guys start struggling, or what have you. A lot can change. So it's always nice to have the farm system stocked. Yeah.
And I think the people sometimes, their MLB's estimating, if you go on the pipeline or whatever, that Justin Crawford will be ready in 2025 or 26. And
just never look at MLB pipeline.
I don't, because that's just no, that's not right. I think
it might be. That's his generic timeline, but
when they put this generic timeline in, they don't really consider much else other than the current year. And given that timeline, I really do think this year, next year are going to be important drafts, because that's how. And it's hard because, there's trades. I know that the Phillies are going to be aggressive come the off season, making trades, signing free agents. But we've seen some of these really strong organizations be built off their prospects. And I'd love it for a Phillies team to be built off the prospects that they draft now that they're taking, I think we've seen a little bit different of approach this past like year and a half with how they're, because they've revamped their farm system a little bit. We've seen that. Some of the coaches have gone, we've gotten new coaches in. When was that? They changed like when did they change their last farm director or whatever?
Preston Mattingly was this past offseason.
Right. So I really like
Brian
the way
Barber
they're going in with that.
Being director of scouting was 3 years ago.
Right. So that overlap time is, I've been really impressed by the way they've gone about things. I mean, we saw in this draft, right? That and I think that, I mean, Preston Mattingly was, I remember he spoke after the draft. Is that Preston Mattingly who spoke out? Yeah. And he said, like, the way that he didn't say it directly, but the way that I kind of understood what he was saying is that they had their eyes on Justin Crawford from the beginning. Like, he wasn't like, the guy they resorted to after another guy they were looking at got taken. Like, it looked like Justin Crawford, that they saw something in him, saw an ability in him to develop him and push him through the system. So I like that approach. I do. And even if it doesn't pan out, which I know that not all of their draft picks are going to pan out. I mean, it's possible that one of the three, in Abel, Painter, and McGarry, don't pan out. I mean, would you agree that it's probably likely that at least one of them will not be what they live up to?
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely likely.
It's 100% likely. All bullpen arms are failed starters, right? So
right.
It happens all the time.
They say that the biggest transition is going from single A to double A. I don't think that's true. The biggest transition is going from triple A to the majors, because it's a completely different environment. The players that you see in the majors, but they've been established in there for years, right?
The biggest jump in the minor leagues is from high A to double A.
Yes.
But the biggest jump in general, absolutely, it's always been triple A to the majors. Yeah. It's two completely different.
And right, because that's for more than just this the symbolic, you're in the major leagues, welcome to the show, whatever. That is, I mean, that's where their goal is to be for a long time.
Well,
so
it's not just that.
Changes.
It's that you're categorized by level in minor leagues, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got low A, high A, double A, triple A. They categorize you by your skill level. In the major leagues, there's anywhere from bad major league players, which are good AAA players, to elite level major league players, which are leagues ahead of AAA, like leagues ahead of where you would have, like, you think about, somebody like Bailey Falter, who dominates in AAA, right? He's a AAA Cy Young Award winner. Then if you put Justin Verlander in AAA, they stand no chance. Right. So it's a completely different category level. I mean, it's not even in the same league, literally and figuratively. So
it's funny you say that. That is my biggest pet peeve. I know you're talking about people on Twitter. Right. That is my biggest pet peeve on Twitter. When someone says, oh, this guy had a 2.98 ERA in AAA. Let's call him up and have him start Game 7 of the World. That drives me nuts. And I've seen that way too often. That just look at the players that are down there. Like, I mean, you go back 2 years, they're like half the lineup for the Iron Pigs was the guys who were like major league depth options. It's a completely different. I mean, every major league pitcher would dice up most of these minor league teams. Mm-hmm. So I can't stand people say that, because you're right. It's so, because it's way out of their league, right? It's so different, and I think that separation is what's going to show us the difference between about minor league Andrew Painter and major league Andrew Painter, and the same thing with Griff McGarry, Nick Abel. We were talking about Chase Ansel earlier. Noah Skira. We talked about all these guys, right? Like, that is, I think they're special. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited. I'm really excited for this group of prospects.
Yeah, I mean, some of those guys are definitely better than others. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the system moves forward from here, for sure.
As am I. All right. So we're gonna wrap the podcast. Ben, you still on here? Or you?
I'm here.
There you are. Did you enjoy that conversation?
So, if you don't know, for the people watching this, I not a big prospect guy. So I let Alex and Colin eat that up, and that's good prospect content, and I hope you enjoyed that.
That was fun. I enjoyed that. All right, well, what are your last words here, Ben? Close this out.
First, Alex, where can people find you on social?
You can find me on Twitter at AlexCarrMLB, or you can find me hopefully very soon back on Twitch at Take a Balk. Very, very excited to get that, make that a focus during the offseason. Really looking forward to it. So you can find me there.
All those will be linked in the description. I'll also link his Discord down there because I made that Discord
during the video.
Yes, I'm also linking his Discord because I made his Discord and I.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, Colin, anything?
I think I'm good. Just Alex, thank you. This was awesome. I had a ton of fun today.
Oh, I'm glad.
Especially with the prospect conversation. I don't get that. So thank you for doing that with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I love doing this stuff. So anytime.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you again for coming on. This was awesome.
Of course.
That is the end of Bell Ringers. We're in 18. I think we're in 18 yesterday.
We're in 18. Yesterday was 17.
18. Yes. I don't remember yesterday. Come on. Episode 18 of Bell Ringers podcast. Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out all those social medias that are in the description below. Go to phillysportsreports.com. We will have updates on there written by me, Ben, all of our Phillies writers throughout the postseason, which hopefully goes until the beginning of November. But as we decided on here today, it probably will not.
You never know.
Thank you all for listening. Yeah, that's true. Thank you all for listening, and go Phillies.
See ya.